All right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to go to the next level. If you're looking at us live, then go ahead and put it in the comments. What is the energy in the room? Also, let us know where you're listening in from. Of course, I have with me, as usual, the man himself, Mr. Bobby Stealth, and we have a phenomenal show for you today. Bobby, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing absolutely phenomenal. It's so exciting to do my morning runs, and I know that you all are doing your routines this morning. Some of you all are like Junior, you had your sea moss this morning. Some of you all are like my wife, you had your morning coffee, and some of you all are like me, you had your morning run. So I'm feeling really good, really excited about our conversation today. How you doing, Junior? I know you're above ground, so Junior's phenomenal. I can answer for him.
That's right. That's right. That's my what you call my mental model. So I think you have to live life with different mental models, Bobby. A mental model allows you to be prepared for a situation before it comes.
Mm,
It's about efficiency and it's about programming yourself for success. So I am absolutely phenomenal. That's just my general outlook.
right.
Yes, sir. But man, we this week was a very interesting week. We had the brand challenge past 5 days. Guys, if you were on the brand challenge, go ahead and put a number one. So put a number one if you were actually on the brand challenge this past week. Let us know. But Bobby, I'm very interested to see what we get into today.
Yes, yes. So I've written down several topics, ladies and gentlemen. Like, put a one in the chat. And I know we've been doing the breakfast with the brand every day. And then this past week, it was like, what's going on? At 9 a.m., we were hitting the challenge. So I want to give you guys some time to get acclimated again, get back into the swing of things. But put a one in the chat if sales, revenue in, cash collected is a priority for your organization right now. Most business owners would say yes. I almost said businesspreneurs, right? But most entrepreneurs and business owners would say yes. So what we're going to be talking about today, so what I've laid out for me and you to kind of discuss is setting, calling, closing, and follow-up. So setting the appointment, making the phone call, or actually holding the appointment, having the call, the discovery call, closing the deal, and then the follow-up. And then as we go through those different things, we're going to talk about the assets that make that possible, such as scripts, automation, systems, CRMs, volume. How much does it take? And now, granted, we may not be able to hit everything, but I know that just about everybody that's watching this right now, if you're post-revenue, pre-revenue, scaling revenue, you're needing to systematize, strategize, and maximize the sales process, the closing efficiency, and the appointment set. So that's what I'm going to be talking to Junior about this morning. I'm sure he's going to have some phenomenal answers for us, and I'm going to share some insights. But I think we're about to go to the break here, and we'll be right back to dive into revenue generation.
That's right.
The difference between sales and closing, I get this all of the time, guys. Closing is elegant. Closing is luxurious. Closing is the most profitable. Sales, high pressure tactics. No one associates car sales, right? The sleazy sales tactics with closing, because closing is elegant. Closing is excellent. You have to be a professional in order to close deals. Listen, when you do this the right way, when you learn what we're going to teach you in here, your clients will be trying to close you, and they won't let you close them for low numbers. So you'll be able to heighten, increase your profitability, increase your visibility, increase your reach, and increase your impact in the marketplace, and be confident and comfortable charging higher prices than you ever thought possible to the right people who can actually pay for them and then say thank you for closing them. Confidence is key. Most of the people I work with, they have the education, the experience, and the expertise. We call those the 3 E's. But they're looking for the 3 I's, the income, the impact, and the independence. And I always tell them that the bridge between the 3 E's and the 3 I's is marrying your confidence to your competence. Most of the people I work with, again, have all of the competence in the world. What I help them do is get the confidence.
Man. So we are back, Junior. Some of my first questions for you are definitely going to be around setting and scripts. So one of the things that I wrote down was setting appointments without a script will cause good leads to slip, along with qualifications to be missed. So I'll say that one more time. Trying to set appointments without a script will cause quality leads to slip. And I think this is very apparent when you send something to someone DM wise, or you call someone and they answer, and then you set, and it's like, great appointment. And then you try to do the same thing the next day and nothing. It's like, well, what worked? What didn't work? Like, why didn't it work? Am I not the same person that set the call yesterday? So, Junior, could you talk a little bit about how people should think about setting? Because if there are no leads, if there are no appointments, there's nobody to close. There's no one to have a conversation with in moving the call forward, so to speak. So how should we be thinking about scripts and setting appointments?
Bobby, that is a very in-depth question. Believe it or not, like that is really in-depth. I'm gonna break it down into multiple stages, but I'm also going to address it from the perspective of a business owner, and then also from the perspective of somebody who's just doing sales. Because there's a difference. The difference between a business owner and somebody who's a setter. So from the perspective of a setter, you need a script. Like one thing I've learned through sales is that you don't have to try to be like a superhero. You don't have to try to be, like creative. You just have to do what works. Like literally do what works. If there's a script that works, there's a reason why it works. And most likely, chances are you may not understand why it works because there's all of these different nuances like embedded within the script that you may not have developed the perspective to understand why it works. So in other words, if you have a script that works, or if somebody who's a little bit more successful than you gives you a script, just follow the script. don't try
Yeah.
don't try to get creative. Don't try to, do your own thing. Don't try to be like Superman or Superwoman. Just follow the script. I'll give you one example of this. In the script that I give to our people, there are certain intonations, certain embedded techniques that they don't know about. So little things like upward inflections on the first sentence, little things like asking a series of free questions, one after the other. If you have not been in sales for quite some time, if you're not what I call a sales leader or a sales manager, then you wouldn't understand it coming in as a setter. So you might want to not do the upward inflection, and then somebody hangs up on you, and then you don't understand why. Or you do it on the first call, you set the appointment, you don't do it on the second call, and they hang up on you, and you're wondering why did they hang up on me? You most chances are you have not developed the perspective to be able to understand why. So in circumstances like that, just follow the script. If somebody's more successful than you, if they provided you a script, just follow the script. And then once you've developed the knowledge, the in the trench type knowledge to understand really and truly what works and why it works, then you could be creative. But until then, you haven't earned the authority to be creative. You just have to follow the script and just do what works. Now, that's from the perspective of a setter. Now, from the perspective of a business owner, you want your people following a script when they close or when they set. Reason why you can't scale something that's not a script. Like if I'm setting appointments one way, Bobby's setting appointments another way, Dr. Michelle is doing it another way, Bradley's doing it another way. How do you scale that? Meaning that when you bring somebody new to the team, there's no way to scale the results. And I'll give you an example of this, Bobby. So I developed a script some time ago, and I think I've shared the script with you as well. I brought on a VA who doesn't have that much sales experience. She jumped on the phone and she closed using the same script. She set an appointment her first day. One call, one set. One call, one set using the script I gave her. She just followed the playbook. She wasn't necessarily the best appointment setter in the world, She didn't have that much experience, but she just did what I showed her to do, and she got the result. And then later I explained why she got the result, but she got the result from the script. So in other words, you want to think of business as scaling. And I have this thing where I say, scalability is the best ability. Scalability is the best ability, but you can't really scale if you don't use a script. So as a business owner, if you're the primary salesperson in your business, which most people are at this point, meaning you're like a solopreneur, you're just doing your own thing, sort of figuring it out. As you get more successful, you want to sort of document successful actions and then ensure that those successful actions be put into a process like a script so that you could scale behavior and thus scale results.
Junior, really quickly, I didn't know if you had something else to add, but I wanted to put something out there. That's what the courses are like. So like if you've ever taken a course, especially with the brand, we have coaching like a leader, closing like a leader. Guys, I'm so excited. I'm trying to get my words to slow down, but I'm like super pumped right now. We have closing like a leader. We've got consulting like a leader. We've got branded like a leader. And what all of these really are different scaffolds or scripts that work within that competency. So when you go through branded like a leader, you're given a series of things to do. And that's exactly what a script is. It's a sequence. It's a way that you do it. And if you do it in this way, the result is what you'll get. And I think that's why most people don't take courses well. A lot of people blame the course, like, oh, the course isn't working, or this isn't working, and that isn't working. It's really a lack of coachability. And in that case, it's not even really coachability. It's an inability to follow instructions. And I'm just being direct, being honest, because we all have it. We all have that thing in us that's like, I want to be new. I want to be creative. I want to be innovative. I am an entrepreneur. And it's very instinctive to a degree to go against the grain or go against what's being taught or try to embellish too early. You're like the musician that's playing the tones and you're trying to make it funky, but you're supposed to be learning the blues. Like, sure, you'll be able to make it funky at some point. You'll be able to embellish at some point. But if you do so too soon, you have as Junior said, you're lacking the authority. So the next question that I have for Junior, and it's maybe a short answer, but if they don't have access to scripts, where do they get them? How do you suggest someone that's just getting started? Should they make their own script? Should they just kind of see what works? How should they even go about getting to the bottom of a script, or should they just try to buy one offline? And if they do buy one offline, where should they go?
Two options. Option number one, you try to build one yourself, which could be a long and arduous process. And the way you build a script yourself is you have to get to what I call 0 to 1. So 0 to 1 means if you're starting off right now with zero clients, like absolutely no clients, your only goal should be to get a client. That's it. Like that's the only goal. How do I go from 0 to 1? How do I get a client? How do I get a close? Doesn't have to be a big close, could just be a little close, but how do I get one close? Once you get to one close, your next task should be how do I break down the process that I took to get to that close? So, in other words, how many calls did you make before you got the close? How many people did you contact before you get the close? How many hangups did you have? How many appointments did you set? How many calls did you take before you get that close? Once you have that statistic, like those sort of statistics and those numbers, then you just repeat successful actions. Like when you got on the Zoom call, what did you say? What was the offer you presented? How did you present the offer? What was your tonality when you presented the offer? What did you do? Like you have to really, it's almost like in football, sort of going over the game footage of
Yeah.
every single thing you did up until the point where you got to that close. And once you've established those numbers, meaning that, okay, I contacted 100 people, out of the 100 people, I got 30 calls. Out of the 30 calls, I set 5 appointments. 3 of them didn't show. Two of them showed. One of them wasn't qualified, and one of them closed. So okay, repeat successful actions. So I need to message 100 people. Most likely 30 of them is gonna, respond. From the 30, I might set 5, and from the 5, I might close 1. So if you want to close 2, all you do is you double your numbers and you close 2. Now you have to call 200 people. to get 60 calls, to get 10 appointments, to get 2 closes. So you want to figure out what those numbers are, number one. But then once you do that, you want to sort of record yourself. Like, what are you actually saying on the calls where you can actually set appointments? So what did you say? What was your tonality? What were the words that you use? How did you introduce yourself? Like, you want to create a script based on successful action. Okay. And then once you've done that, then you want to test the script over and over and over and over and over again until you 100% sure that this produces a repeatable result. So that's number one. Number two is you need to hire somebody that is a sales director or a sales manager, somebody that has a little bit more experience, maybe somebody like myself or somebody else that's actually familiar with your industry and could customize a script for your business. And that's what I'll recommend. So these are really and truly the only two ways. But just buying a script online, it's not going to work because it may not be your industry. It may be a different product. Your company may be different, etc. So you have to find something that's customized for your business. So either you have to create it or you have to hire somebody to create it for you.
Wow. And what Dr. Michelle just put in the chat leads me to one of the assets that we were talking about. So scripts, that's an asset, guys. Automations, the asset. Systems, assets, so on and so forth. So one of the assets that I've been introduced to, I was using it a little while in my own business, and then I got into another situation where I was using it even more. And it's called a CRM. A HubSpot is the one that I've got a lot of experience with, both prior and present. And what I think is really interesting about it is that it records the conversations for you. So when you have a CRM that is capable of that, and you're at that stage in your business where you are trying to implement scripts and you are looking for the effectiveness of the script, what you can do is you can just set it to record all calls. Now, granted, you might randomize it so you don't eat up so much of your recording, say bandwidth, but that's one way to do that. So just to answer your question, Michelle, like, you could at your stage just play a recording on your laptop as you're calling people just to get the recordings and just do a few. But there are CRMs and systems out there that are designed to record teams and then send those recordings to, say, the sales manager to review, say, a number or percentage of them and identify gaps. But as we get ready to go to the next break, one thing that I'll say before we do go is, I don't know if you guys heard what Junior said, like fully absorbed it. Like, he said, you got to make like 100 calls just to get like 10 appointments, just to get like 5 people to actually show up for their appointments. And then you're going to get maybe 2 or 3 out of the people that show that actually have cash on hand, so to speak, and are ready to do a deal that day. And that being said means you might walk away with 1 close. And that's from 100 calls. So one thing that I want to put out there that just really is really important in my experience with sales and just revenue generation is, the time that you think it's going to take to get a sale, just multiply by like 100. The energy you think it's going to take to get a sale, just multiply by 100, because it really is what I'm about to say right now, which is the little phrase before we go to the break. But what I wrote down as I listened to Junior speak was, success is far more expensive than many expect, but it is less costly than failure. So I think that, we might as well do the work, but as you're doing the work, expect the work to feel like work, and just keep on doing it. Junior told me at one time, and a few weeks ago, he said, brute force, Bobby. Brute force. I liked it, and I kept using it.
It's true. It's all about, like, and I hope we get into the mindset of this, because the mindset part, the thinking part, is a big part when it comes to sales. But it has to be a nice balance of, I think, brute force and just strategy. So there's a nice balance there. But hopefully we can get into that once we come from the break, guys. Stay tuned.
I said Shaan right east. I'm proud. I said Shaan right east. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire and heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes.
Whew, man, Junior, I think you should dive right into mindset because I have so many questions, but mindset wasn't one of them. So I don't want us to lose that one. So I would ask the question really quickly just so the people know where you might be coming from with this one. But I think what Junior wants to talk about is the mindset you have to have when you're going through the process of being rejected, because it's like so many calls, it's so much volume, it's so much energy and tenacity involved in getting to the one, all the stuff you got to go through. So I think that's where Junior is going. And if that is where he's going, I'm super excited for myself and for you all, because the mindset, I think, is everything when it comes to the stamina required to do sales successfully.
Well, so this whole thing is about mindset, just so you guys know. Like the whole process it definitely involves mindset. The rejection part, we can talk about that, but absolutely everything is mindset. So when I initially got started, it was more about just taking action. But at some point, you have to apply strategy. At some point, you have to grow out of, just running into the wall, so to speak. Like you have to be able to apply strategy, especially if you're somebody that's busy. Most business owners, they are busy, meaning that you have other things to do. So you're not just doing sales all day. You have other stuff to build and you have other stuff to do. So then to some extent, you have to apply some kind of strategy, which is where the mindset comes in. Now, we can talk about rejection. So the way that I look at rejection, in fact, let's look at what is rejection. Like literally, let's look at what that is even. What is that even? Rejection is basically a prospect saying no. A prospect saying no. Now, this can be very dismal to the average salesperson if they don't have the right perspective. So the right perspective, the correct perspective is the reason you're on the phone is to separate your qualified prospects from your non-qualified prospects. So when somebody says no, they've done you a favor by disqualifying themselves. The only reason you're on the phone, like if you have a batch of 100 people, out of those 100 people, they're not all qualified, believe it or not. You might have a few of them that are qualified. So your job is to get on the phone, qualify them. So you take those that are qualified, you move them to the next step. Those that are not qualified, you push them aside. So when somebody says, no, I don't think this is a good fit, or they hang up, or whatever that is, they've essentially disqualified themselves. And they've done some of the work for me because number one, they save me time. They save the business money because you don't waste time going through the process with them to end up on a call and they have them tell you no. So they're actually doing you a favor. So My thing of rejection is thank you, and I move on. It doesn't affect me in any way. I don't feel I'm agnostic to rejection. I mean, I don't really, it doesn't hurt me. In other words, it doesn't hurt me. So I just see it as them disqualifying themselves, which is the right perspective.
Mhm.
Um, but let's talk about mindset. The mindset that you should have in order to avoid the negative feeling of rejection is a mindset of expectation. Okay,
Mhm.
so there's a nice balance here because I believe that, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So sometimes if you're expecting rejection, you get rejection. So I'm not saying to expect rejection. I'm saying just be prepared for it. Just understand that it's part of the process and understand that every no statistically gets you closer to a yes. Statistically, you have to go for a certain number of no's to get to yes. So that number might be nine, it might be eight, it might be seven. I guarantee you, like that number exists. So if I go through five rejections, statistically, like mathematically, I am actually closer to a close. If you really think about it logically, not emotionally, logically, you are closer to a close. So somebody saying no to you literally is pushing you closer to the end result you want. So that's the way I look at it. And that's the correct, in my opinion, that's the correct mindset. That's the correct mindset around it. So rejection is good. It's not bad. It's a good thing.
You know, another asset that comes to mind when we talk about just being authentic and branding yourself properly and closing more deals is ethics. I was listening to Andy Elliott yesterday, and he was like, "No one on my team, on my sales team, doesn't have a six pack." He was like, "Everybody on my sales team has a six pack." And the reason he said that was because he said, "Who's gonna trust somebody to keep their word if they show up to your door sloppy, like ungroomed, overweight, belt hanging off their waist?" It's like if you don't look like you are trustworthy and you have morals, values, or principles, no one's going to really trust you to deliver the product that you're promising that you can. So I think the another asset that can be highly undervalued is the role of the brand in the process of the close. And the close is just one aspect, by the way, of the sales process. So the sales process has various steps, and I'm not going to list them all out, but to keep them simple, I put them in four chunks. Setting the appointment, so that's like finding them, getting in front of them, talking to them, and getting them to talk to you again on a more standardized format. Like that's the setting process. Now there's a chunk of stuff you got to do in there, but that's the first part. Then the call itself. Fact finding is what some people call it. The diagnosis is what some people call it, but just figure out what needs to be done and if you can help them. And then the next section is the close, the part that a lot of people talk about, but that's when you actually overcome any objections that may be there, or at least get the prospect to see the service through your eyes or the product through your eyes and exactly why it's the best thing for them to do, if it is in fact the best thing for them to do. And then you got the follow-up. So the reason I lay this out and I preface this to the next question to Junior is because we build brands here. Now, the question that I'm going to ask to Junior has a lot to do with you are the brand, and how does individuals' brand and their brand ethics affect their ability to set, keep appointments, close deals, and follow up. So the question to you, Junior, is do you believe an individual's personal brand and how they show up every day has a direct impact on their ability to close deals?
Yes. And I'm going to answer this from the perspective of both the business owner and also just the regular solopreneur, like the average one person that's just trying to close deals and get that stuff off the ground. So from the perspective of the one person, I would say that the brand, the presentation is absolutely important because presentation builds trust. And when I say presentation, I mean the way that you present yourself, your brand. The whole point of building a brand is to establish yourself as a credible person in the market. If you have a brand, you could build that credibility. It goes a long way into getting people to trust you. Okay. And that leads to sales. So yes, the brand absolutely has an impact. Also, when you show up differently, you feel better. When you feel better, you perform better. The prospects respond to you better. I had somebody tell me the other day that they like the way that I present because it lets them know that I take what they do seriously. Like we're getting on a call and I'm dressed correctly, I'm groomed correctly, and it lets them know that I take their time seriously. Like I'm not just jumping on the call with a t-shirt and like whatever, let's get started. What do you want? You know, and
Yeah.
you take time, and it's about separating professionals from amateurs, Bobby. Nobody wants to work with an amateur. An amateur is what you call the sleazy salespeople. These are the amateurs. The professionals are not sleazy. They're not salesy. They're not. There's no high pressure tactics, stuff like that. It's just a smooth process of finding out what you need and giving you what you need. And if you don't need it, then it's cool. You don't need it. You just move on. Now, from the perspective of the business owner, which most of us are, I think a brand, like brand is so important because, and let me tell you something, culture. Culture is what gives that intangible thing that allows not just you to be able to perform, but allows your team to perform. And culture starts with the individual. So if you, as the business owner, if you have some chinks in your armor, and I mean, when I say chinks in your armor, I mean in your character, then it shows up in your sales. Because this is the thing, Bobby. Your
Yeah.
salespeople have to be able to trust you for real. Like they have to be able to trust you. So when you look at phenomenal teams, like I know the Elliott team is a phenomenal team. They're an extension of Andy Elliott, okay? And what you're looking at is culture. It's culture. So brand is all about culture. Brand is how you scale culture. So you have to have a phenomenal brand so you could scale your personal culture to then give your team the edge that they need to be able to perform on sales calls and stuff like that. So if you want your team to be fired up, if you want your team to be professional, if you want your team to be, just different, like, just real pros and just phenomenal at what they do, you have to create that as your culture for your business, and then you scale your behavior through your culture, and that's how you scale a phenomenal sales team. So to answer your question, from the individual standpoint, a brand helps you build credibility in the market, which helps you to close more deals and more sales. But from the business owner's standpoint, you have to be able to build a phenomenal brand, because brand allows you to scale culture, and culture gives people the behavior that they need to have to be able to perform the way that you need them to perform. So if I need Bobby to perform to a high degree, if I need Bobby to be energetic, if I need Bobby to be professional, I have to be that way, and I have to create that into the values of the company, so that when other people come in underneath Bobby and they're following Bobby, they're following the original culture set by the business owner, and they're achieving the same results. So once you have the script, so the script allows you to scale the tangible stuff, like getting on the phone, stuff like that. But the intangible stuff, character, behavior, energy, stuff like that, you scale that through culture. And that could only be done for a brand.
When you say you scale through culture and the brand is a direct extension of the owner and things of that nature, it makes me think about the Marine Corps. Like there are very, very, very few overweight Marines. One, because it's like outside of our military standards. Like if you're overweight in the Marine Corps, we will process you out. It's called BCP, body composition, either profile or performance. I was never on it. That's why I don't know it. I was never on BCP. But if you were, like, you would be processed out. I say that because I don't know a single high performing, absolutely crushing it sales professional in all of my years that's overweight or out of shape. Like I cannot think of one that's just like known for crushing it and just does not look stellar. In fact, most of them look fit And I think part of it is because it's like sales is brutal. It's brutal, but it's brutal for, I think, good reasons. It's brutal because it requires, I think, a lot of energy. I think that's what makes sales so brutal. And it's not a bad thing. So please don't be afraid of this. Please don't be afraid of this. But what I'm saying is that you want, if you want to be an entrepreneur, and all entrepreneurs sell in some shape, form, or fashion, you're going to need a high reservoir of energy. It's got to be almost never ending. And individuals that have this reservoir of energy normally do a series of things. And some of those things sound like this: they work out hard, they eat right, they drink plenty of water, they stay away from drugs in most cases and alcohol in most cases. Not saying it's necessarily good or bad. I'm simply saying most salesmen that I know don't condone those activities, simply because anything that could reduce the performance or siphon off the energy is exposing them to risk. And that, I think, is what makes sales such a brutal experience, because so many people want to keep their comforts. And sales requires you to become a version of yourself that's chiseled, not comfortable, but chiseled, like strong-willed, strong-minded, disciplined, aggressive, and energetic. So my next question for you, Junior, is, I heard you talk about systems a lot. And I know you've said, as human beings, we can be as disciplined as we want, but if we don't have a system, there's going to be a gap. There's going to be a breakdown. So how do you use, or how have you seen used systems in conjunction with very energetic business owners to create unstoppable sales initiatives, sell forces, and produce large revenue streams?
So you're asking, are you asking about the intangible systems?
Both, really. I'm asking, and I can ask this question a little bit better, so thank you. I want to definitely give the audience a very clear question. So the question that I'm asking Junior is, how can the viewers pair up systems with their daily routine to improve their performance? Because they all have a certain amount of energy, and they're all human, so they're gonna get tired eventually. So my question is, what systems can entrepreneurs and business owners add to themselves to extend their energy, to maximize the energy that they have and the energy that it actually takes to be successful in sales?
This is a good question. Um, I'm going to connect this with what Shaan says in Branded Like a Leader, when Shaan talks about spirit, mind, and body. So that's a system: spirit, mind, and body. So I would say, let's start with the body. Let's start with the body. So systems for the body, for the physical, is definitely you have to work out. Now, some of us work out twice a day. You don't. I'm not suggesting you do. You don't have to, but at least work out once a day for at least 45 minutes. you know, like, wake up in the morning and work out. That's number one. You have to work out at least once a day. I recommend working out in the morning. Definitely drinking a lot of water. Getting enough sleep, which is very important. So those three things, you should probably put that on your calendar. So when do you work out? Put it on your calendar. How much water are you drinking throughout the day? Put it on your calendar. Also, make sure you're getting at least 6 hours of sleep. At least six. When I started doing 4 hours, but then over time, I learned that 4 hours is not. You can you do it? Yes, but eventually there's a what you call a diminishing returns of your results over time. So it starts like you start to get more results because you're putting in more time. So you start going up, and then over like a couple months, it starts going down, or it starts like evening out because you have less energy. So even if you're spending the same amount of time, but you're not performing the same activity with the same energy, with the same conviction, etc., you start to get diminishing returns for your time invested. So I would say you definitely want to get at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep. Number two, your diet. So what do you actually eat? Um, there's no, I'm not a dietitian or anything like that. I would suggest get help when it comes to diet. Like find somebody who's certified when it comes to diet and have them put together a diet that works for you. But you have to have a good diet, good exercise, water, and sleep. Those are like the basic things that you need to have. Once you've taken care of that, let's look at the mind. So what is the system for the mind? You have to train every single day. I train every day. You have to train every single day. I recommend training in the morning, but if you want to train at night, so you have to train at least once a day, every single day, even on Sundays. So there's no days off. Monday to Sunday, train once a day. Okay. Chances are, if you're not getting results, I guarantee you're not training. So if you're in something like closing like a leader, or you're in another program, you want to train every single day. So train once a day for the mind. That takes care of the mind. With regards to the spirit now, your spirit has to be up. You have to be in good spirits. And I would say good spirits. Sean teaches, meditation for, connecting and having a good spirit. So you can do that. Another thing you can do is really taking the time out to craft a very compelling vision for the future, because the vision is what's going to keep you going, and the story that you tell yourself is what is really going to empower you when you end up in places like slums, or when you come to different areas in your journey where you feel like this is very tough, I can't do this anymore. You have to be able to rephrase that, or sort of readjust that to something that is more empowering. And the way you do that is by telling yourself that you're moving on the journey to your vision. And listen, every hero in every story goes through tough times. Like there's no hero. Like you can't be Batman without going through what Batman went through. You can't be, Wonder Woman without going through what Wonder Woman went through. So every hero encounters difficulty. So you have to be able to sort of rephrase and, sort of reform your situation in your mind and direct that towards your greater vision. And that's how you take care of your spirit. So that means you stay in good spirits. Even if you got rejected, you still feel phenomenal, you still feel amazing, you still feel ready to crush it. And I would say community works for spirit. So getting around a community of high achievers that are all moving towards what you want to move towards, like that gives you energy, that keeps your spirit up. And they're going through the same thing that you're going through. Like this call, for example, we're talking about, just regular stuff that if you're selling right now, you most likely are going through. Like being in communities like this one or other communities, it really helps you to keep your spirit up, which is very important. Like you can't, even if you have a phenomenal body and a phenomenal mind, if you have a defeated spirit, it just doesn't work. Like if you have the spirit of defeat, it's over, my friend. Like that's more important than both the mind and the body, right? So you have to have a spirit of, yes, I can make it. I'm moving forward towards my journey. This is absolutely amazing. I'm on the path. You have to have that spirit. Now, once you have those things, that is the personal system. The business system is, of course, the road to the sale, the sales system, the CRM type stuff, which everybody's CRM is going to be different based on your business process. So, like I was telling Dr. Michelle, you might have to have somebody come in and design that stuff for you, set it up in your CRM, show you how to use it, so that once you have that stuff, you have sort of a process that you can follow to ensure that you're consistently following up leads. You're putting them where they're supposed to be, etc. You're managing what we call a sales pipeline, which is going to be very important for you to achieve results. So essentially, Bobby, those are the main systems. And then the overarching system that sort of brings all of that together is, like I said, culture. Culture is, it's like the governing principle, we call it, of the organization. So if you step into certain sales organizations, they have a phenomenal culture. It's just like when you walk in there, there's just a different energy because everybody's on the same wavelength, everybody's fired up, everybody's ready to go, everybody has a great outlook on life, everybody's handling rejection, everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. And when you step into that culture, which is like what I said, like a community, it keeps your spirit up, it changes your outlook, and it gives you the tools, the resources that you need to really and truly go out there and really and truly crush it. Now, if you don't have any of these, what can you do? So what can you do is you could absolutely start with yourself. Start working on the physical, start working on the mind, start getting into communities, online communities that can help you to work on your spirit. And then little by little, as you start to acquire the funds, I highly recommend you start to invest in your education and invest in some of these other technical systems that I've spoken about, like CRMs and stuff like that. If you're not a systems person, just hire a systems person to do that for you. Save yourself the energy and all of that. Like, just get it done and get it done in the right way so that you don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. But that's essentially how you do it, Bobby.
Yeah. Wow, that was so good. That was so good. So if this has been good so far, guys, and you're enjoying it, you've learned a lot. We've got about 3 or 4 more minutes. Go ahead and put some flames in the chat for Junior today. I think he's been answering our questions phenomenally. One thing that came to my mind as I was just listening to Junior break stuff down and looking at the comments was that this is one of the least talked about, most talked about things out there. You're like, what? How can you say that? Like, that's a super oxymoron. Well, what I mean is that everybody talks about the close. Everybody talks about handling objections. Everybody talks about how you can get more prospects to say yes. But what isn't spoken about in the sales world as much as I think should be is the need for ethics and the requirement for energy, the relentless mental toughness required to close deals and recover from missed deals, the ability to seize opportunities, and anybody that's ever been into sales, like, really, like, for me, I've been in sales on multiple sides, like as a representative when I'm just getting out in front of people and making sales, and as a business owner when I own my organization, scale my organization, and employed setters in my own organization. So I've been on both sides. And one thing that I'll say is that when you're scaling the business, growing the business, nobody really tells you how many hours you're going to have to work in order to get a close. And I use the word hours on purpose because the numbers is one thing. Like, okay, I got to make 100 calls to get to, every no gets me closer to a yes. That's one thing. But that number is a bit misleading because 100 seems very simple. But until you've actually been on the phones, until you've actually been driving around looking for that next one to get you closer to the one, like, until you've actually done it, you don't really know. And I think this is what me and Junior have been really trying to work on today, is why the script is non-negotiable, because you don't get that many shots at this thing. Like, sometimes you get one shot at your one, and you went through 100 people, and this is your one, and you don't have a script. So you say something off the wall and you miss your one. Now, that's not to say, oh, you're missing your leads. I'm just saying that there are certain things that increase your chances of success. And one of them is scripts. One of them is systems. One of them is taking care of your body. But here's the last thing that I want to leave you guys with before I turn it over to Junior for any closing remarks is, if you are serious as an entrepreneur, you definitely must be serious about sales. Now, if you're just in sales and you're serious about sales, here's one thing I highly recommend that you do. Never talk bad about the sales process to your partner or your family, because here's what I've learned. I've learned that if you talk bad about all the numbers you had to dial, all the people that rejected you, everybody that says no, your loved ones are going to start thinking that, especially if you spend as much time closing as most people should, if you're just getting going, or you're really serious, like you're on these phones like 8 to 12 hours a day, or you're out and about 8 to 12 hours a day, like they're going to start to say to themselves, you're away from me 8 and 12 hours a day, doing something you don't even love. It's bringing the person home to me that is beaten and defeated, and then it's costing us money. Oh, and by the way, you get paid commission and you're not making anything right now. It will make your home and your life a very difficult place to be. So, one thing that I've learned is always tell the spouse, the partner, the family that you had an absolutely phenomenal day closing. Now, you don't necessarily have to say you closed the deal if you didn't, but say you had an absolutely phenomenal experience getting better and better. This is only if you genuinely believe that this is your purpose and calling, like be entrepreneurship or business or selling. But if you do that, what you will start to see is they will become a part of your energy reservoir as well, feeding into you, pouring into you, keeping you motivated. But if you do this the wrong way, they will be a pain in your side, telling you that that business is killing you, that this sales is going to be the death of our marriage or something like crazy like that. And they won't want to hear about it. And that's just going to cost you more energy. So that's just an insight.
Yeah, Bobby, I can speak to that just a little bit. So, I see Dr. Michelle says it was unbelievable with a smile. That's funny. But yeah, I mean, man, you're right. It's just like, okay, if you're the captain of a ship, okay, which most of us are, if you're the breadwinner of your family, if you're the captain of the ship, like you don't tell the passengers on the ship that the ship is going down. Every little wave that you encounter on the ocean, you don't. The captain only alerts the crew or the passengers when like we're about to hit like an iceberg or something like that. You know what I mean? But I mean, apart from that, why would you raise alarms or something like that? That doesn't make sense to me. So if it's a situation where you're about to strike an iceberg, by all means say something. But I mean, if you're just going through the motions, why say anything? Why complain? There's no benefit in that. So I just don't see the benefit. I wouldn't do that because it's just leadership. You just handle it. That's it. You just handle it. You just take care of it. You didn't make sales this week? Yeah, you go, you figure it out, and you take care of it. That's your responsibility. That's what you're supposed to do. So you don't. It's almost like, as a saying, if you're married, okay, and your spouse does something, you don't go back and tell your family because you'll forgive them, but your family will never forgive them. So it's the same thing, brother. I just wouldn't share that stuff. Um, but at the same time, you as a leader, you need to highlight the phenomenal parts as well. So you highlight the phenomenal parts, but you don't alert people or raise alarms for every single wave that you encounter in the ocean. You only alert people when you're about to strike something deadly. And to me, that's the way I handle that. So if there's a little wave, it's a little wave. It's okay. It's a little turbulence. It's all right. That's supposed to happen on any journey. If it's something that's absolutely serious, then yeah. But if it's like just a normal routine, like why would you raise alarm? Because remember, they're not in that world. They may not understand your world. So they, wanting to protect you, they're going to try to take you away from what is hurting you.
Yeah.
But ironically, you need the pain to grow in what you're doing. So you just have to figure it out and just go along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, guys, has been Breakfast with the Brand. And Junior, do you have anything else for the people?
Um, no, man. I think we've done a lot. Bobby, you have some phenomenal questions. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a part two of this because there's so much when it comes to mindset, when it comes to leadership that goes into sales. Sales plus leadership is the key. Sales plus leadership is the key. Not just sales. You have to know sales, but you also have to know leadership so you can take your game to a next level. So maybe we'll get into that on the next episode. But I just want to say thank you so much for everybody who's been with us. If you've enjoyed this, just go ahead, put some more flames in the chat. If you need anything, if you want to learn more about how you could build your systems, etc., you could contact either me or contact Bobby or message Shaan on any social media platform, and we will respond. All right. So have a phenomenal day. Thank you so much, and let's grow.
Let's grow.